Is this thing on? Welcome back to Big Mouth and fancy seeing you here in June. A very welcome, my friends, and especially my enemies. Come in, sit down. No touching. I don't do the touching. Welcome back to Big Mouth. You can continue this conversation and many conversations because I'm quite knowledgeable on a great number of things over on my Twitter at Movies TV Mad. So welcome to my brightburn review. I pre-order most of the new releases when they're in the cinemas through Amazon. They arrive when they're ready, and then I give them a watch. So I was quite excited to watch Brightburn because many of my fellow Zack Snyder fans were saying, "Ooh, this is going to be like a Zack Snyder film. This is like, what if Superman was bad?" Anyway, right, I'm going to get a rap in the knuckles from most of you because I know a lot of you Snyder fans kind of got really excited about this film, had quite a few orgasms, maybe had a few kids, I don't know. I didn't really like this movie. This movie was really made for me. This is typical of modern movie making, right? Just typical of the big push you get for a movie. You get to see these trailers, you get really excited, and when you see the actual movie, you think, what an utter mediocre load of shit. I didn't like the actors' performances. I didn't really like the characters. This film didn't really have much going for it. This film is a B-Tech horror movie, a kind of Omen, but badly done. The remake of Omen, not Dick Donner's version, of course. Right, so let's start with this. So the whole premise, I like what it says on the top of this. From visionary filmmaker behind Guardians of the Galaxy. Visionary filmmaker? Since when has James Gunn been a visionary filmmaker? Yes, he's a good writer-director. He's done okay with Guardians. I'm looking forward to his Suicide Squad movie. But visionary director? Oh, just ridiculous. Anyway, so this is what one of the critics said as well. A dark twist on one of the most famous comic book tales of all time. Did anyone used to watch Smallville? This film was like seeing Clark on Red K. That's what it's like. So basically the film starts off, the film stars Elizabeth Banks. Who's the geezer who's lucky enough to be kissing her in this film? Right, let's have a look. We've got Elizabeth Banks, David Denham. Right, I thought this actually was Mark Ruffalo's brother. He really looks like Mark Ruffalo. Is it just me? But anyway, this is a film written by I think James Gunn's brothers and a friend of his directed this. Who directed this picture? David Yarovesky, right? Now, David did some interesting... Look, basically, right, my favourite part of this film, which I thought, wow, I felt bad for not liking this film, was at the end when the kid lifts his kind of mother, his adopted mother, up into the sky, looks at her, and she drops down in slow motion. That is fucking awesome. Now, all I just say to the kid is, you've got 100,000 more SJWs to drop, mate, and then we'll be good. We'll be fine and dandy. Anyway, how did Elizabeth Banks get a role in this film? How did Elizabeth Banks get to star and direct the Charlie's Angels movie? A discussion for another time. But anyway, Elizabeth Banks isn't a particularly strong actor. I'm sorry, she's not. She's beautiful, she's attractive on the outside, that's why she's made it. But Elizabeth Banks isn't a particularly strong actor. There are many, many brilliant female actors in general out there. Elizabeth Banks is okay. And shall I be honest with you, Elizabeth Banks is a television actor. And this is what they've done. This is an interesting thing. We've seen Joker make loads of money, get lots of critical acclaim by being a low-budget movie. Now, they've done the same thing in this film, but it's just a mediocre movie. Look, this is just my personal opinion. I'm not telling you don't have to like this film. I'm just telling you how I feel. And I just feel that this film is very, very mediocre. So basically, Elizabeth Banks is sitting on top of her husband. It's a dirty job, but someone has to do it, right? But laying there while Elizabeth Banks, is it him who's on top? Anyway, it doesn't matter. So anyway, everything starts to tremble, and it's not the guy's sex. The guy in this is just, I didn't think it was a great performance. I mean, I know they're not supposed to be good parents, and they're meant to be ordinary people with ordinary flaws. I get it. There's not enough fleshing out in this movie. This is a very hurried movie. And that's interesting because for the first, I would say, half an hour, 45 minutes, it's a very, very boring film. So basically, right, they discover the spaceship, and then the first mistake of this film happens. They skip the bit when they find the kid and bring him indoors. Now, they show that later on within a dream sequence of what the husband's having this weird dream, and he recollects the baby, and the baby's bleeding, and blah, blah, blah. But that took me out of the story straight away. So anyway, we see the kid growing up. At first, he seems like an okay kid, and then he starts hearing these voices from his spaceship. That's absolutely ripped from Smallville Season 2, when Clark can hear Jor-El's voice, a.k.a. Terrence Stamp. In Smallville, it's awesome. In this, it's not. I mean, there are elements of this film that can be a bit creepy. So I think the director did a good job in that element. As I say, it's just a B-Tech horror movie. It's nothing else. It isn't this big commentary of, what if Superman wasn't a hero? That's the whole point. Superman's a hero because of the Kents. Alan Miles, who created Smallville, always said that. Everyone who talks about Superman says, without the Kents, Superman will become bad. But it's not just a case of bad parenting in this film. It's a case of bad writing as well. But the elements are that this kid is obviously being controlled somewhat by this spaceship. So it's a bit complicated like that. I mean, I like it when he's holding the girl's hand and he breaks it. It's a very brutal movie, and I like that. When the jaw falls off, I love that, very brutal. I love brutal and gore horror films as well. So the deaths are kind of gruesome when he kills the waitress, and he's obsessed with the daughter. The kid, I think, is the best actor in this film. There's no question about that. The other people were very ordinary, including Elizabeth Banks. I was not impressed with the adults in this film. The kid did a fine job because he's got to play a character without a soul. So when they're telling him that his uncle's died, he doesn't give a shit. First of all, he knows he's killed him, but also he doesn't give a shit. This kid has no empathy, and that's the first thing about being a killer, isn't it? So I know what they're trying to do. They're creating this kind of narrative about what if Superman turned bad. But for me, this film was made by people who don't like Superman. That's what I think, right? So I watched the special features and they were saying, yeah, well, we trust all these superheroes, but how can we trust them with all these? Basically, right, they're asking the kind of question that's already been asked before. I mean, I'll revert back to Smallville. Smallville touched on this so many times that Superman can also be dangerous. You know, when he's exposed to Red K in the wrong type of circumstances. This film does that. Man of Steel kind of asks the question, and so does Batman v Superman, doesn't it? Superman's a hero, but even though he's a hero, he can be dangerous as well in the right set of circumstances or the wrong set of circumstances. So this isn't... I think that James Gunn and his brothers and the director, who's obviously his mate, thought they'd come up with something unique. And as I said, the chatter before this film is, ooh, this is like a type of Zack Snyder film. And, you know, James Gunn's being faithful to Zack Snyder's vision. I don't think he was. As I say, visually at times, like when he drops the mother at the end of the film, which I fucking loved. I really loved that film. Knowing that Elizabeth Banks is one of the biggest SJWs going. Not that I want anything to happen to her, but it was great to see her via a film where she's actually quite safe. And just the kid looking at her, it was hilarious to see that happen. It was great. But visually, that moment was brilliant. I also like the credits at the end when they were talking about this mysterious brightburn figure in Brightburn causing havoc. So there's a part of me that kind of wants a sequel so they can sort this story out. Because I think potentially this could be a very, very interesting story. I believe this could be a better TV series than a film. If Brightburn was a TV series, I think I would have enjoyed it a lot more because the commentary and the narrative is interesting. And I think that's why Bates Motel worked with a younger Norman Bates, a kind of spin on the Smallville concept, if you like. And I think Brightburn would have been really good as a TV series, and a sequel would be really good as a TV series. That's what I'd do if I was them. I don't know if they'll do a sequel. I don't know how much money it made. James Gunn's name probably helped the film do, well, look, this is not a bad film. It's just a very, you watch it and you think, well, okay. It's like most of the films you see these days. You watch them, you get excited about them, and after you've seen them, you forget about them. That's why Joker's so big, because it's a film that actually does something that modern day films don't do. Leave a lasting impression on the movie viewer, on the movie consumer. Most films made today don't do that because they don't know how to write a good story. They barely know how to make a good film that has a lasting impression, because it's all about sucking the box office and then tossing it away. These people don't make lasting money in years to come from these films, and I'm including the MCU because it's about the immediate effect. Now, it's very interesting. I could draw a comparison to the Schwarzenegger, Stallone and Van Damme films when I was a kid. But the difference with those films, they did have rewatchability. They weren't classic. They were a bunch of trash. I could still watch them and enjoy them, but they were a bunch of trash, but they were rewatchable bunch of trash. That's the difference. They had something. They had a bit of personality in them. And the films today just don't do that. And then you've got a film like the Joker movie that's made like people used to make films by someone who can actually write and direct the film. There's a big difference. And this is why I'm really excited about the DC Black Label. I will give this film, I'll mark it out of 10. I will give this film a 4.5 out of 10. I think it looks okay. I think the director tried his best. He didn't write this movie. He tried his best with what he was given. But this wasn't the film I was sold. This wasn't the film that a lot of fellow Zack Snyder fans told me it was going to be. And just like most films these days, it's a film I'll watch and probably won't watch it again. So I'll probably have to sell it or just shove it in my collection because it's that ordinary to me. It didn't give me the impression of good acting, good writing, average directing, and at the end of the day, it wasn't the shocking commentary of what if Superman turned bad, and quite frankly, do I care? I like my Superman being a hero. I don't want to think about him being a villain because that's not who the character is.